I'd, I'm Brandon Rollins, creator of War Co. Welcome to Legends of Tabletop.
Hey everybody, this is episode 61. We're getting back to our gaming situation here. We had a little different podcast last week with Jack Williams, which if you haven't listened to it yet, you should go check it out. It was a lot of fun. He's a great guy.
That was
So I have Vince. He's over there doing his thing.
yeah.
We've got Brandon. He's going to be talking about. I'll be talking about War Company or War Co. Thanks for coming on. We're excited to have you on, talk about your game, help you promote the hell out of it. You're already fully funded, so that's fantastic.
Well, thank you for having me on. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. You're all over the social media, so we figure we get our pound in.
Oh yeah, I'm way too active on like Twitter and Instagram.
Yep, yep. Hey, well, when you got your own Kickstarter going, that's what life becomes is podcasts and Twitch streams and Twitter and all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. All right, we have a thing we when I can remember that we kick off the show with called Something Cool. So do you have something cool that's been going on aside from your Kickstarter over the last couple of weeks, last month or so?
The Kickstarter has actually been my life over the last couple of weeks, but well, I can tell you one cool thing that came out of that I didn't expect to come out of that, if that's all right, if that's not cheating.
No, that's cool.
When I went in, I thought I've got the design on these cards pretty much finished, and that's it. And then a lot of people started talking to me, having ideas for like different ways of presenting them. So one thing that came out of it that I wasn't expecting was updating the card design to make the art bigger. Like a lot of people started coming out of the woods and saying like these are design tips on how you can present information better. So that's something cool that's been going on.
That's pretty cool. I mean, that is one of the neat things about Twitter and being on Kickstarter is it's very interactive between creator and potential backer. So that's pretty cool. And since you're as far along as you are, and like you said, you were essentially done. It's not too much of a stretch to go. Okay, well, we're going to pull this border off and go full bleed.
Mm-hmm.
So that's pretty cool. What about you, Vince? You got anything cool going on?
No, actually, it's quite boring. I have some pocket lint that's cool, and nothing cool.
You are boring as shit every time we do this. You don't have anything going. This whole segment was your
I'm
idea.
gonna check my pockets.
Check for pocket lint, and that's decidedly uncool. Last time I talked about the Dwarven Forge.
That's true. That's true. Well, you milked that for a couple of weeks though.
I milked that for 2 episodes, and you're allowed to do that. There's a 3-episode milking.
Okay, 3 seems excessive, but okay.
So.
All right, I have actually something fairly exciting. Today I was talking to Casey Whalen of Whalen Productions, the folks who put out We're Alive and their new series Lockdown, which was the prequel to that. And we're trying to get something worked out to get them on the show in October. So that's pretty stoked about that. I listened to that podcast. It's been like 7 years now since it's been out. Came out in 2009. So it'd be cool to get a chance to talk to them and understand their process and what they went to get through to make that. So pretty cool.
That is cool. You know, it'd be cooler. If you shut your windows so we don't have half of your face glaringly, blindingly white.
Oh my God! I know. What? I got terrible light in here, though.
It is bad lighting, and it's affecting us.
I need to get like a lamp that I could put behind me, like an interrogation. Because the quality of this camera is shit. I hate this computer.
That's true too.
Keep going. All right, yeah, let's jump into
it's really more of a healthy glow, honestly.
Or a radioactive glow.
I mean, what's the difference?
That's better. It's daylight.
It's a really subtle distinction.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
All right, so we'll jump in here. So this is the first game that you've created. Why don't you tell us a little bit about the history behind it?
Okay, so this goes way, way back. Yeah, I'll just go ahead and go back to the beginning. In 2004, I was 11, like really young, and I was watching Yu-Gi-Oh! On TV, and I decided to make my own game. Because like a lot of kids, like their parents wouldn't buy them the cards for different reasons, like money or because they weren't into the show or something like that. So I made my own game based on like how I thought the game was played based off of the TV show. And I gave that the name of Dodgeball Cards because it had nothing to do with dodgeball whatsoever, and it seemed like a logical name. And
Fair enough.
I don't know. We played this for a few months, felt like forever because we were kids. And then I just let it sit, didn't do anything with it for like 5 years. Always kind of fascinated with games before and since, but never really touched this project in its early form until about like 16. Played around with it a couple months, gave it a reboot, gave it kind of a sci-fi theme, gave it kind of a war theme. Didn't do much with it. Let it sit for a few years. Picked this up at like 19, 20 in college. Played with it for a couple of months. Didn't get very far with it. Let it sit for a couple of years. And then about 17, 18 months ago, I started really seriously working on this. Like, I had this old idea, and maybe if I come back to it, having played more games and having, taken in more media, maybe I can actually see an old project from my past through to completion. That was one of the things that motivated me, but that's a little of the background of it. Let's see. And a lot of it from there was just playing and playing and playing with old ideas until I finally refined the idea and got what I mostly wanted out of it.
Okay. You attempted to kickstart this, I guess, a couple of months, 6 months ago or so, and you pulled it. What happened the first time around?
Okay, so 6 months ago, I was aware of the board game community, and I had played a handful of games, and I thought, having not really been deeply involved in the community, that Kickstarter, that's the place you go when you have like half of an idea and you want to get money to pay for the other half, right? So I went on there, I said, I've got this game that I've been testing for a long time. I've got the core mechanics all spelled out. You can play it. I just don't have the art. And I had like rough estimates on how much I thought it would cost me, and it was not realistic at all. And so I did that 6 months ago and pulled $1,600 out of about $7,000. So that's about 25% of the goal. After 2 weeks, I was confronted with just so much new information from so many people saying, well, can you answer this? Can you answer this? Can you answer this? All these really specific questions. And then I'm like, oh, I really don't know what I'm doing here. Canceled the campaign, decided to study up, make the game better, learn more, and then I came back again 6 months later. I didn't even mean to wait 6 months. That's just like when the timing was right again, when I was finally able to say, like, okay, now I have a much better idea of what I'm trying to create here and how this is going to work and what it's going to cost.
Sure. Well, getting into the first Kickstarter is a real beast if you haven't had really, any exposure to it. There's, it's like a second job.
Yeah, it really is. I didn't quite, I knew it was going to be hard and require a lot of effort the first time around, and I was paying a lot of attention to it, but I was also like, well, I'll just launch this at 5 p.m. because that's when I get off of work. I'll announce it 2 weeks in advance because then I can drum up effort to my existing, but not as big as it is now, social media audience. Well, I've got a lot of followers. That's where the money's going to come from, right? Social media followers. No, it's just a lot of I didn't realize how much work it'd be or what it would involve or like what the right way of getting the word out was. So I just spent like six months working on it. I got all the art done, and while that was going on, I just played it with a bunch of people. And that's a lot of it. Played it until a lot of the kinks came out and a lot of the things started working as they should in a finished game.
Mm-hmm.
Gotcha. Can you tell us a little bit about the game?
Okay, so the theme is this terrible sci-fi dystopian apocalypse wherein there was this terrible war called the War of 2620. And prior to that, every government in the world was split into two multinational governments, just two basic coalitions, if you will. And there was no war for about 300 years. And during that time, only one company was able to survive that era of peace. One company that could manufacture weapons, that is, and that was the War Machines Company. They got by on subsidies from the government in case of, an alien attack or something. They wanted to keep some kind of international defense company around. Anyway, tensions got really tensions were heightened up until the point of 2620. A terrible war between these two multinational superpowers broke out, and the only company there around to give them anything was the War Machines Company. So the war went on for 70, 80 years. Fast forward 100 years after that, people are still fighting. They have no idea why. There's very little historical record, and they're recycling old machines from a war they never started and never even remembered. That's the theme.
Gotcha.
That's the theme. Now, how that actually represents itself in gameplay, the whole point is just to run your opponent out of cards. You want to survive longer than anybody else.
Okay.
It is, it's an expandable card game, which is a fancy way of saying living card game if you're not Fantasy Flight. It's true. It's true. It's trademarked. It's not something you can say. But pretty much, if there's anybody out there who's not like a board gamer, yeah, who's familiar with like Magic and Yu-Gi-Oh and how that works, imagine something like that, but without random packs. That's the basic kind of format of the game. And instead of attacking somebody until their defense runs out, you attack and defend and pull all kinds of tricks until they run out of cards. It's based on card churn and not on life points or something else like that.
Gotcha. Okay, that's pretty interesting. Now, it'd be safe to say that you're an avid gamer since the age of 11?
Yeah, and not just in board games. Like, I just played a lot of video games growing up, as well as gotten really into board games in the last 6-12 months, too.
Okay, so the creating your own and the Kickstarter itself has opened up a whole new vista of games for you.
Yeah, in a lot of ways, design came first, as messed up as that is. Design came first for me, and then I kind of just fell into a larger community, and then I realized that there was just this subculture of hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of really good board games out there that I never knew existed.
It's
like,
overwhelming.
Yeah, it really is. It's like I grew up with a closet full of board games, but they're the kind of board games you'd see in like Walmart, right? That's what I had around as a kid. So I'm in my early 20s, like 21, 22. I first pick up a copy of Pandemic or Ticket to Ride or Carcassonne or something like that, and all of a sudden I realize, wait a minute, this is way better than I remember board games being. This is way deeper than I remember them being too.
Yeah, John and I have similar experiences because we're older too. It's just like.
And I did start on the gateways into modern board gaming, which is the three I just mentioned, like Ticket to Ride, Pandemic, Carcassonne. Cliche answers, but they're good gateways.
Yeah, that's good. It's a good genesis.
Hey, whatever gets people into the hobby, that's fine. Do you have any, or would those three be your favorites then, being your sort of your gateway drug, or do you have other games that you would consider like, these are, if I'm going to play anything?
Okay, so of those three, I'll always have a special fondness for Pandemic, because although I got into other games, I think before that, Pandemic was the first one where I was like, oh my god, this is deep. And there's a lot going on in that. I don't know, like, it's the kind of thing that people, like, they speak fondly of, but it's like, oh, I haven't played that in a long time. If you just sit down and play that and you introduce people to that, they realize it's really deep. I got really into Twilight Struggle against the computer for a little while there on Steam, because I'm like, okay, BGG #1, let's go, let's see what this is all about. And, like, I couldn't find anybody else who was willing to spend 3 hours playing this this Cold War game with me. So I'm like, okay, I'll see what this is about. And I played about 5 games of it before I understood what was going on. And then when I got it, I got it. So Twilight Struggle from game 6 onward is also a favorite of mine, but 1 through 5 are just 1 through 5 are like starting an exercise program when you're out of shape.
Yeah, so the learning curve can be kind of steep on some of the games. Like I prefer for myself like a beer and pretzel style game. Something you can play in 15 minutes or a half an hour. Cards, dice. Simple mechanic. Because that's also function as a good gateway. I can get my kid to play some of those games. If you only have a little bit of time, everybody's busy. Pull that out. You could play it like Onitama is great. I picked that up recently, and that
I need to try
fun.
that.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. And
I also like. Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off there.
No, go ahead.
I also like, that cliche on Reddit and Twitter to a lesser extent about buying patchwork for your girlfriend or playing patchwork with your girlfriend. Like, that cliché's got a place, too. That's a really good game to, like, introduce a girl to, too. It's just just something on my mind. Something I thought of. That's a real cliche. That's a good game, too.
I look at some games and they get a lot of married people like, oh, this is a lot of fun or whatever, and I look and I go, I don't know. Like, to me, it doesn't seem like it would be fun. I mean, obviously you have to play it and give it a shot.
Well, it looks like cutesy Tetris, but it's actually got like deep lines of strategy into it if you're willing to do that. Like, you can make aggressive maneuvers to keep people from getting the piece that they need to get.
Yeah.
You can look at their board and try and predict what they're going to do. You can turn it into a zero-sum game if you really want to turn the cutesy quilt game into a zero-sum game.
That would be me. Probably.
I'm not above that. I'm not above that. I've made an extremely zero-sum game, so sometimes those old tendencies will pop up in games where that's not necessarily the best strategy. I tell you one way I play a lot of games. Me being a big cheapo, I only buy stuff I know that will get played in my house with, like, my brother or maybe a couple of friends, right? But I go to meetups once or twice a week, depending on the week, and that's how I play a lot of board games. I know this guy. He has, my God, it's over 400 board games. It's crazy. He logs all his plays on VGG, does all that stuff, and I'm like, I don't know how you do it. But he always has something good that he can bring out to a group that you've never heard of, that you've never seen before. And that's like how a lot of my exposure to games happens. It's just by visiting people who have more games than me. Like, that's how I played Power Grid for the first time. Just go to a meetup and say, hey, I want to try this Power Grid thing.
Right. Yeah, I actually started a meetup group that's sort of ancillary to the podcast for the same reason, because I've been an RPG player for the most part, and now that we do the podcast, we get games for review occasionally, and it's just something that I've gotten into more recently. So same thing, I started a meetup group, and then to tell people, hey, come to the meetup and bring your games. So I've gotten to play a lot of cool games just via the meetup, same way. Stuff that people have and they're willing to bring it and share it, and explain it to people, so it's been pretty cool. Yeah,
it's always a nice way to meet people. I guess that's where the meet part of meetup comes in.
Yeah, right. Now, do you prefer a cooperative style board game, or are you more of a cutthroat, zero sum?
Well, I like competitive, but I think there are fewer cooperative games, and I think there need to be more co-op games out there, if that makes sense. I think I like competitive games more right now simply because there's more of them. However, if there were more co-op games out there, I think I might not know my preference anymore. Does that make sense?
I think. Answer. Yeah, the default probably is more of a competitive style, but there are quite a few co-op games. Pandemic being just one of them. I'm sure if you did Board Game Geek and just search co-op, you'd probably find quite a few.
Probably 20,000 or more. Just knowing VGG.
Yeah, more than you'd think probably.
Yeah.
So we didn't get into the rules yet, but I do have a question, and then I'll ask you about the gameplay. So if you have more than 2 people playing, you discard 5 cards for every person over. Why did you come up with that mechanic?
Okay, so if you play with 3 people, it automatically starts to take longer because card churn is like how you like your cards are literally your life. The more people you put in a game, the longer the game takes. And if you don't account for that in some way, it gets incredibly excessive. So I thought, okay, I'm going to just try this 5 card per person discard rule and see if it works out. I don't think it will because, you might lose your good cards or something. And then I tried it and it actually did work and my worries were not actually founded anywhere. But that's why it was added. It's almost purely a time thing.
Okay, so it tends to keep the game at about an hour then.
Close to an hour, yeah.
Okay, well, why don't you tell us a little bit then about like what is the gameplay? Oh my God, cat on the keyboard. So how does a typical round work? Yeah.
I'm trying to think about like how to elegantly explain the gameplay without components in front of me, and without like reading off my rule book too. Okay, so throughout this whole explanation, just keep in mind that you start with 50 cards minus whatever you discard for the extra people, and your cards are your life. When you run out of cards in your deck and in your hand, you're out. That's it. It ends then. So I think the next thing to address after that is, okay, so you know how you know what you need to do to win, but how broadly do you actually win? I see 3 basic strategies you can take, or mix and match these however you like. You really need all 3 to some degree. You can play super aggressively. You can attack a lot. You can invest in heavy machines and just try to sweat your opponent really hard, run the game really fast. And they end up discarding as a penalty. I'll get back to that later. You can bide your time. You can manage your hand. You can set up combos. You can play defensive. Be very careful about how you place your cards, and you can approach it like, I think, kind of more like a chess mindset, where every card you play is played in a certain order to where it benefits you. And the third broad way you can play is just like play traps, play stealthy, keep your opponents guessing. So there's 2 types of cards in the game. There's machines, and then there's technologies. There's the 2 basic types. And machines are your offense and defense, and technologies just change the rules of the game. You always want to... You can't attack with technologies. You can attack with machines. You can only play up to 3 machines at a time, and you can only play up to 2 technologies at a time. So if you max that all out, that's 5 cards total. You have to be very careful about what you play because you don't actually get a whole lot to play except for certain special circumstances. Let me think. Attacking. Okay, pretty big part of the game. Machines are the only type of card that can attack. And if you have a machine and an enemy has no machine out there, you attack them directly. Boom, immediately hit their deck, and they discard 3 cards from the top of their deck as a penalty. It doesn't happen very much, but this is called a direct attack. It's something you really, really want to avoid because this will destroy you in the game very quickly. And then there is an indirect attack where you can attack another machine. If your opponent has at least 1 machine out there, you've got to attack that machine. If your machine's stronger than theirs, just simple, your strength number is higher than theirs, they lose their machine, and the top card off their deck is a penalty for having the weaker machine. But if it's the opposite way around and your machine's the weaker one, you lose yours on your own turn, no less, and you get penalized a card off the top of your deck. Let's see. You have to discard a card from your hand every turn. So you can't just sit there and hoard your cards. You can't do that. You always have to make hard decisions about what to get rid of. You have to think about what you're least likely to need. You can play cards face down, and if you play them face down, you can turn them up at any time, and that includes during your opponent's turns. So, element of surprise, really nasty, you can do that kind of thing. And when you turn them up, that's when the effect written on the card takes place. Now, when you turn a card face up, it uses up energy, and this is another important concept. I think like the last core concept of the game. Every card takes up energy. When it's face up on your field, it's using energy. If it's face down, it doesn't use energy until it's face up. You have a floating pool of 10 to split between all cards you have in play, and everything uses between 1 and 5. Now, 10 won't get you very far. So you have to make very careful decisions about what you play. You can play a bunch of cheap energy cards that don't take up a whole lot of... You can play cards that don't take up a lot of energy, but they won't necessarily be strong. Or you can play really strong cards that use up a whole bunch of energy. If you don't have the energy to play something, you can't play it. If the energy you need to play something is taken away from you, because of something your opponent did or something you did to yourself, you start losing cards until you have enough energy to keep stuff in play. So that can open you up to really devastating stuff happening. If you end up not having enough energy to keep in play what you've got in play, you lose the most recent card that you've played. And it just keeps going back to most recent until you have until everything you have in play you can actually pay for with energy. And like that's pretty much it. The rest of it is details that help maintain the game and make more sense when you've got on the table. But the three core concepts are pretty much run your opponent out of cards, machines attack, technologies don't, and energy and face down cards wisely. That's pretty much it. Did that explanation make sense? I feel like it was a little bit rambly.
I read the rules, so they made sense to me.
That was good.
I explained myself better in writing. That's why I put a lot of effort into getting those rules right there.
Yeah, that makes sense.
On live streams, I tend to just skim down my rules and explain the rest as we go along as we're playing around the table.
Gotcha. Now you're calling this an expandable card game as opposed to a collectible card game. For you, what's the difference? And now each different deck is going to lend itself to a variety and style of play. And do you have a favorite? I know there's a lot of questions in that question.
Mm-hmm.
Or answer that question, I should say.
So the first thing is collectible card game, like CCG, and also trading card game, TCG. Both of those acronyms kind of have a bad rap. It's not totally fair, but they do, because a lot of people have gotten burned out on old models where you spend and spend and spend over random packs. So a more acceptable name for that is living card game, but you can't use that. That's a Fantasy Flight thing. That's where expandable card game came in.
Gotcha.
The expandable basically meaning you can buy 2 decks, you can play with 2 people on that, but you can also buy more and make a bigger game if you like.
Gotcha.
Pretty much the game adjusts to how much you get into it and how many people you want to play with.
Okay.
Now, types of decks. Man, opinions are so weird on this because every time I'm like, well, this one's clearly better, someone else will argue with me for a long time over that when they get into the game. It's crazy. Which I feel like is a sign that I've done something fundamentally right. But, all right, the 6 types are, let me see if I can get these all off the top of my head. Bruiser, Conspirator, Guerrilla, Militant, Trickster, Wildcard. Oh, hey, yeah, look at that, I got them all. It's been a long day. Bruiser does exactly what it sounds like it does. It attacks really heavily, gung-ho, gas-guzzling machines, big tanks, scary machines, not a whole lot of surprises. It's just big and muscular and hard to fight off.
So they're using a lot of...
Mm-hmm. It's, uses a lot of energy on average. Conspirator, that's a little more tricky. It's subversive. It's all about playing combos and about being unpredictable and about having a lot of really odd effects that come in handy at strange times. And when you play it at first, your opponent's like, I'm not really sure where you're going with this. And you play something else and all of a sudden, like, the game crumbles around them as you catch up at the end. That's kind of how Conspirator works. Gorilla has a lot of what's called stackable machines, which are like low energy, low strength machines that you can combine to make bigger ones during the game, and that's a whole different thing to explain. But just stackables, little tiny machines that can join together. That's a lot of Gorilla's thing. Militant is all about combos and playing with subtypes. Every card has a little subtype next to its type. Like the card will say machine, but it'll say space machine or buffer technology or something like that. And if you play space machine with a card that makes space machine stronger, then you'll have a combo there. And militant is about putting together elegant combos. But nothing in it alone is really strong, so you have to manage your hand as you're going along to make that one work, to make militant work, and that's hard. It's the hardest deck to learn. You have to play the game a little bit to get it. Trickster is defensive. It doesn't like to be pinned down to anything. It's kind of it slips right through the cracks and hides behind shields. And Wildcard's just crazy. Wildcard is just insane. It's got all sorts of cards that do all sorts of weird things. It uses up more energy than any other deck. It attacks heavily, but there's not a lot of combo potential. It's just like there's no chemistry between it. It's just really, really tactical. Play what you get when you get it. Fly by the seat of your pants kind of thing.
Nice. Okay.
So, and I probably revealed my own biases while doing that, but a lot, which for beginners, I would suggest Wildcard or Bruiser to start with. Easiest way to learn the game. But my personal favorite for a long time was Conspirator, but I think Militant is a really close second. My brother really likes Bruiser, but he also plays a defensive Bruiser. It's really weird. I don't know how he does it. It's kind of cool. He beat 5 of us on a stream by doing that one day. It was just a weird strategy I'd never thought of.
Oh, wow.
A lot of people are really into Trickster. I don't know why. I'm not personally a huge fan of Trickster, but a lot of people are really into Trickster. Yeah, there's pretty much, like, there's no consensus on what's the best, but I can usually guess what people will like based on how they talk about how they would like to play the game.
Oh, okay. A little bit of psychology there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, how do you normally play a game? We'll try it here.
Yeah. And it makes it easier for you to beat them on the stream then.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, actually, I don't. I'm not a very good player on stream because I'm narrating my strategy as I go along for the audience. Is plausible deniability for me.
We'll go
what
with
I'm
that.
going to be doing for Kickstarter backers, just so they can feel like they're making a good purchase that'll fit with how they want to play, I'm going to make a buyer's guide that says, like, if you like playing like this, I think you'll like this. If you play like this, you'll like this one instead. Something like that.
There you go.
That's cool.
Psychology company.
Mm-hmm. Well, and then people getting something that they're going to enjoy, as opposed to, well, I'm going to, maybe I'll buy, the pledge at, get 4 decks, and then, I hate these 2 decks, so maybe I should have got,
So this game 50% sucks. Yeah.
We have to find people to play with it, and you're like, oh, try this deck. This deck is great.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So the art is by James Massino. It's
Macino, and he is fantastic.
Okay. The art is amazing. I mean, it's very beautiful. How did you guys meet? Are you guys longtime friends? You find them on Fiverr?
Oh man, this is gonna sound stupid, but okay. So about 5 years ago, I got really into Minecraft, right? It was like an underground college thing. I was playing with a friend who. Playing with a guy who I met through Minecraft, and we got sick of it after about 3 months. We played an embarrassing amount of Minecraft for that period of time, but we kept in touch. His name is Alex Nuttall. He's a good dude. He's in college now, and we just kept in touch off and on through Skype and through text message since then. And I told him I was working on this sci-fi game, and he says, I know a guy who I used to play Club Penguin with when I was a kid, who is an artist. Maybe I'll introduce you to, and I'll give him your email, and you guys can talk about this. And I'm thinking, okay, friend of a friend. Let's see how this turns out. I know a guy who through Minecraft who knows a guy through Club Penguin. That's
Mm-hmm.
that's pretty much how the art turned out the way it did. Um, Friend of a friend, now just a regular friend, and he was just starting his career out. Like he's still going to art college. He's still getting started, so he didn't have much of a portfolio or anything. I'm like, all right, so here's all my lore on the website. Um, Check it out, read it, get a feel for it, and do whatever you like, and do like 10 sample arts, and let's see what happens. And he knocked it out of the park early on. And then we kept going and going and going, and he kept getting better and better and better as he kept going because he was getting experience too. That's how that worked out. Just random sheer chance, pretty much.
Lucked out for you. I mean, he's
Yes,
really good.
incredibly.
Is it? Does he work? Is it all digital palette or?
I want to say he does it all in Photoshop. I know I know it's all digital.
Okay. Yeah,
It
it
might
probably
be
can be
Illustrator.
Photoshop. Yeah. Yeah, lots of colors too. There's a nice, dynamic
Hmm.
with colors and stuff. It's very striking. They pull out any card and like, wow, that's really cool. It just really grabs your eye.
Yeah, I told him early on, I said, I know that the temptation with Apocalypse related stuff is to go gray and brown and really mute palette. I told him, I don't want you to do that. I just saw this new movie, Mad Max Fury Road. It had come out like 2 weeks before I started talking to him. I'm like, all right, so I really like the art style in this movie because the way it it always knows where to direct your eye when you're watching it. And it's got these bright colors, and it doesn't succumb to the same old apocalypse kind of thing. So I want you to be careful with focal points. Make sure there's always a focal point. Make sure it's bright and but still like war torn and terrifying in the background. And make sure it scales well at both the card level, because it will be 2.5 by 2.5 inches, and also at like poster level, because you never know where this thing's going to go. And those are better instructions, I feel like, than most people give their clients, especially, or their freelancers, especially when you add in the lore. But that's like, he took that, which was relatively little to go on, and he ran with it. And boy, did he run with it. Like, yeah, like it's not Instagram filters. These things really are as bright as they look in photos. Like, this is just old copies right here. They really are that bright.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah, they are. Cool. Now, your company, Pangea Games, in which you are the sole operator and employee of, is that a springboard just for your Kickstarter, or did you have that in mind all along?
Well, I was creating War Co for like 4 or 5 months before I had created the company officially in the county clerk office. But I was like, okay, I need a company name for this game, because what if I make more than one game? And so that's how Pangea Games came about. But yeah, it pretty much War Co preceded Pangea by a few months.
Okay.
All right. You've got a copious amount of in-game lore. You referenced that a little bit. You do a daily artifact and all that kind of stuff. There's just a ton of information. Are you thinking down the line maybe to do like a fiction line? Do we see a novel in the future? What are you thinking there?
That would be awesome. If I were up to the task of making that divine medium of the novel, yeah, I would love to do that. That'd be amazing. I don't know if there will ever be an interest for that. But if there were, that would be something I think I would like to do. Do you mind if I go into a little more detail on how the lore works?
No, go ahead.
Okay, so every card has its own story. All 300 cards have a story of about 150, 200, 250 words, and they all link back and forth to one another. And whenever I noticed that I was using a technological word or an event or something like that between multiple articles, I wrote a new article for that. So like Christmas Battle of Salazar Valley, that's just a random event in there. Or Joseph Sykes' rebellion at Nativity Hills or something. Like, if I use something more than one time, I would write a whole separate article about that, and I would link to them. I wanted to make it like Wikipedia, kind of, in the sense that it was written in a semi-impartial voice by people who are just discovering it and trying to piece together what's going on and can't tell if it's reliable or not. They all link to each other. Plus, every week I do an artifact, which is just, initially it was just like, look, we found a new artifact. Then I started turning it into sort of like a serial thing for a while, for 20 or 25 or 30 weeks. And then a few weeks ago I was just like, okay, I've been doing these artifacts for a long time. I'm going to make an ongoing story. And when the Kickstarter is done, if it takes off, I'm going to retcon my backer names into this story as it goes on, you know, pending their permission. And it's a story of, right now, that is a story of explorers from an old bunker trying to collect artifacts to, A, win this war that's still ongoing and they have no reason or understanding why, and B, find out what happened. And that's it. And it's just scene after scene of people being stuck in a small, basically a small, tiny, overcrowded tank. Think like a DOS boot kind of situation in a horrible world that's just gross and messy, and they not only have to contend with the whole world being, the whole outside world being terrible too. Like, they're bored, things are tense, they don't know why they're doing what they're doing. There's a lot of weird politics involved. There's a lot of there's a lot of weird corporate stuff going on too. And then, like, that's one other part of the lore. And I think one other thing that a lot of people notice is that I just do random fake company tweets a few times a day.
Huh.
Like, from the voice of the fictional entity of the War Machines company, I just do fake tweets in their fake voice. That's not canon. That's just a silly version of it. But I'm just like, okay, corporate dystopia tweets, and I'll do a few every day.
That's pretty cool.
That's a good idea.
Yeah, I have a lot of fun with those. They're also,
that takes a lot of time.
I write them. Is this cheating? I don't know. I write them in batches of 21 at a time, and I schedule them throughout the week. And then when the week's up, I write another 21 at once, and then I schedule those throughout the week. And it's the kind of thing you got to put on the computer at the side while you're doing something else. And then when you get a good idea, all right, that's good, and write that down. Like, I'll come up with 7 or 8 immediately, and then the others just come to me later throughout an hour or an hour and a half's time.
No, that's cool. I thought about doing something similar with one of our ongoing campaigns. We release APs on Mondays, is for Fear itself. So I thought about creating a Twitter for the Ghost Facers, which is the company that plays in the Fear itself game. And I'm like, shit, there's no way I have time to like manage a third Twitter just to like tweet random stuff. I'm like, it's a good idea, but I'm not doing it.
Well, 1, you get used to it, and 2, use Hootsuite to schedule tweets ahead of time, and it's not so bad. Because, like, I've got a full-time job. I come up with stuff to say, and I just space it out throughout the day when people are online.
Mm-hmm.
If you do that, it's not so bad.
That's what I try to do with our Twitter. You know, I try not to just blast out, like, you know, some people are like every hour, every half an hour, they're, you know, tweeting something. I can't do it. I don't have that kind of time.
Oh, man, I don't have that kind of patience, frankly. Like, I really do like social media, but, man, I'm still introverted at heart, and I'm like, okay, I got to get away from this for a little while. That said, like, all this whole broadcasting, lots of followers, all that stuff, it's kind of a misdirect. The real magic of Twitter is actually talking to people, one-on-one conversation, even if it's just like riffing on something they said with a joke or an attempt at a joke or something, or giving somebody a compliment. Like, that's where Twitter actually shines. That's where marketing actually gets done. If you want to call it marketing, whatever, evil word, we'll just go with that for now. It's just pretty much just have a conversation with people.
Yeah,
Um,
it's definitely about interacting with people on a
yeah.
personal level and trying to make connections. And the board game RPG community is pretty good about that kind of stuff. I know there's a board game hour that happens. I don't know that happens every day, but happens fairly frequently, and people get in and talk about things that they're working on, or new ideas, or favorite games and that kind of stuff. So everybody's pretty accessible. So it's neat to be part of that community.
Gives you a real ear to the ground for what's popular at the moment or what people are really into. Like last month, Scythe, Gen Con Scythe.
Yeah, yeah.
I actually I'm pretty interested in playing Scythe. I really gotta do that. That's Stone Mire. That's something I gotta do.
It looks really nice. I haven't played it either, but I mean, you get those three-dimensional pieces and all the sculpted pieces. Looks really cool.
Mm.
All right. So as far as stretch goals go, did you consider, using a playmat as an add-on potentially? Because you're playing cards in different rows, and you've got the tokens to mark your energy and all that kind of stuff. Was that something that crossed your mind?
And that is something that crossed my mind for a little while. I'm like, do people really want playmats? But what I actually ended up going with, and something that ended up testing better, weirdly enough, just another one of those weird things that happens, was just machines in front, technology in back, and your scrapyard on the left of tech, deck on the right of tech, and like a playmat sounds great at first, but then people are like, you gotta fool around with it and try and smooth it out and do all kinds of stuff like that. And people are like, you know what? I actually like them just being on the table with designated spots instead. That's something I thought about though, because that would have been a pretty, I think, a solid stretch goal. So.
Yeah, especially if you had the art on it. I mean, it would be worth it just to pick it up for that, even if you didn't use it to play.
Right. Yeah, like some special art for that. I like my main stretch goals pretty much are stock upgrades and just nicer cards pretty much, and everything ultimately comes down to that because Warco doesn't lend itself to stretch goals super easily. Like that was a real difficult thing to do, so I pretty much just focus on stock upgrades. But I did throw one extra thing in there for a handful of people that looks super weird to the uninitiated, and that is the $15,000 relationship ruiner card, which really started as an inside joke pretty much. It's just something like something I threw together on Twitter, and it blew up, and people are like, I want this to be a real thing, make it a real thing, make it a stretch goal. I thought, no, people are going to think that's dumb. You got to back me up in the comments if I do this. And notes succumbed to peer pressure and a bunch of likes and retweets and made that a stretch goal. That's got to look super weird to Kickstarter and just passersby though.
It's funny. I mean, it fits with the theme, I guess.
Yeah, it's to celebrate just the nasty zero sum mechanics, I suppose. Celebrate. It says at the top relationship ruiner, and at the bottom play and discard. Never talk to your opponent again. This effect continues after the conclusion of this game.
Nice.
If you haven't flipped the table over while you're playing a board game.
Now, confidentially, don't spread this around. Shh, don't put this on the internet. If we get close, I'm probably gonna throw that in the box. Like if we just get even close to 15K, I'm probably gonna throw that in the box. But,
nice. Well, we won't tell anybody.
Yeah, don't tell anybody.
It'll be a surprise.
Just a little first print run Easter egg. Easter eggs are fun. I know James has thrown a bunch of Easter eggs into the art, and I haven't found all of them yet. I'm probably still going to be finding those years later.
Probably.
Yeah, probably. One of the rewards is actually getting your name drawn on there as an Easter egg on one of the cards. Cap it at 50 so we don't have names all over the place.
Yeah.
Or it's something low like that. It's like 25 or 50 cap, but yeah, that's a thing. You can get your name drawn on one of them, like real small text, kind of in a Easter egg in the art.
Cool.
I asked James, I'm like, all right, so do I need to pay you extra for this? I know this is extra labor. He's like, no, it's fine. It's not hard. It's just a layer in Photoshop.
Yeah, pretty much.
Mm-hmm.
Now, do you have anything else you're working on? Any projects that you'll be unleashing soon?
I don't have any other game projects, but I do have some ideas that have been in my head for a little while that I think you know, once this is done, while things are printing, I might very well make something else. And I have been saying to people, somewhat jokingly, and more lately, it's becoming the truth, that I should make a co-op game to pay for my sins of making this game. Just a kind of atonement, really. You make a nasty zero-something, and then you have to make a co-op game. Something pleasant, like about road trips throughout the United States. Something patriotic, but not the weird kind of patriotic.
Hmm.
Yeah, that is actually something I've been thinking about.
Cool.
Okay. Oh, we'll keep our eyes peeled for something like that, and we'll keep an eye on the Twitter and see if something comes up.
I've hinted at it a couple of times, but it's buried in just the sheer amount of weird corporate stuff and other people's art that I share too.
Mm-hmm.
It's buried. It's in there somewhere.
And now it's
Cool.
in this interview.
All right. So as we said at the beginning of the show, you're already 100% over 100% funded, so that's awesome. Your best value for your buck is the $60 tier. You get all
Absolutely.
6 decks, and it's free shipping in the U.S. So you can try out the weird wild card or the trickster or the bruiser. Get in there, figure out what your best play style is, and then give your brother, your friend, the one that you hate the most.
Oh, I tried that. It turns out that my brother really likes Bruiser, so it didn't work. It didn't work. No, by far 60 is absolutely the best value. For if you are going for, value mindset, go for the 60. If you want cool weird stuff, there's higher pledges too, but yeah, 60 is the big one. That's the core.
Awesome. That's the one I'm thinking about tagging in on. That gives you all the options. Yeah.
Which, yeah, something I can't say enough. I am so incredibly grateful for all the people who have backed this campaign, especially early on. That's crazy. I thought it was going to be a fight and struggle to 10 grand, and I thought I would get in the last 48 hours. To be completely honest, I thought it was going to be a close call. I thought it was going to come down to getting 9,300, and my parents saying, "No, we can't let this happen." Throwing extra money in there at the last minute. But no, it's been a great response. I'm very grateful, and not just for money either. It's feedback too, as well as encouragement. That means a lot. Not only has this brought money, it's brought actual really, really solid advice, good business tips that are being messaged to me on a day-to-day basis, saying, call this Canadian fulfillment company. I've dealt with them before. They're really good. Or, oh, Australian fulfillment is tricky. I know the right people to email about this. Or, if you want your graphic design to pop, do this. Or, have you considered doing an A/B test? And that worked really well, too. So
I was in on that.
I appreciate that. Yeah, it's been an incredible response. Get in on the 60. That's a one takeaway. That's the one takeaway.
That's the biggest bang for your buck. All right, I'm about plumb out of questions. If you want to give us all of your details, we still have a final wrap-up round of questions we'll throw at you. But if you want to give out all your contact information, and we'll keep all that stuff in the show notes as well.
Okay, so best way to find me, go to Twitter, Instagram, or Facebook, and my handle on there is War Machines Co. WAR Machines CO, pretty much. So that's my social media. All that shares the same name. Website address, warcothegame.com. No hyphens or anything, no spaces, warcothegame.com. That's pretty much it. It's pretty easy to remember. I've got a lot of links, but that's the one. Okay, I'm sure you'll probably give them a Kickstarter link too. So that's the big one. That's the big one for now.
Yep, that's all in the show notes already. I have to get how was it, Mike? I'm scrolled past those questions already. Or James. I got to get James's link up there too.
Yes, please give him a link to his website.
Yep.
We cannot give him enough credit for what he's done. I say his name on a day-to-day basis, and it's still not enough.
Yeah, he did some beautiful work for sure.
Yes, he did.
It's worth it just for that. I mean, shit, you could buy all the decks, get some frames, put everything up, put it up on your wall. You don't even have to play the game.
I might honestly frame some of his work when this is done. Like I've got to have it delivered, I think, before I can commit to putting that on the wall. But that's something I've thought about. Like I am really a fan of James's work. So, yeah. By yeah, jamesmacino.com. I think his Twitter name is also James Macino too. Yeah, it is James Macino on Twitter too.
Okay.
No spaces, no hyphens, no underscores.
All right, we'll get that in the show notes as well.
Hmm.
And to round out the interview, we've got 5 geeky, nerdy questions for you. It's called the Final 5. So I'll throw those at you. It's, you can either say yes or no, or if it's, yes because, or however you want to go about it. So it's Star Trek or Star Wars.
Oh God, that's not even a contest. Star Trek.
Oh my God, you're one of those.
Preferably. Now you ask me. No, I'm not one of those. I'm not like a hardcore Trekkie, but it's just not a contest. You ask me TOS, TNG, or DS9, I'm gonna struggle.
Okay. Where did you get in at? Next Generation or?
I started with the original series on Netflix, like believe it or not, last year, and then I watched TNG, and then I watched DS9 after that. Tried to get into Voyager, but it wasn't speaking to me on the same level.
Okay. I'm assuming you've seen Star Wars before.
Of course, yeah.
Okay.
And it's really good, too. I just prefer Star Trek.
Okay. That's fair. Tabletop or video games?
Tabletop these days. I'm tired of looking at computer screens all the time.
All right. I feel you there.
Although there's a lot of crossover, because I do a lot of my board gaming on the computer, so... Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Okay. DC or Marvel?
Marvel, but I'm basing that on movies, so everybody can just go ahead and crucify me for that one right now.
The Marvel movies are pretty good. DC's movies have been terrible.
Yeah, I would not have used a more polite word. That's the right one. That's the right one.
It sums it up pretty well, I thought. Did you see Suicide Squad or no?
I haven't seen it yet. I kind of want to see it just because, loud banging, lots of noise, but I have heard bad things about it. I don't know if I just want to do that.
Yeah, I think that's an HBO movie for me.
I saw it in the theater. You can wait for that.
Oh, did you go see it?
Just wait.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Sci-fi or fantasy?
It's sci-fi.
Okay. Well, obviously, with the the theme of the card game,
I'm super biased, so I'm not the best person to be asking.
Probably should have subbed in a different question. And if you could have one superpower, what would it be?
Power fulfillment. No. Oh goodness, I don't know. That's a tough one. So here's the thing about this question: every good power comes with some kind of
drawback.
Some kind of odd drawback, like some kind of trade-off. I think the safest bet actually is super flexibility, because that will give you a lot of other powers. If you could stretch yourself in the right way, you could just use, you could learn a lot of physics tricks and probably get super strength and a bunch of other stuff out of it. Stretch thin enough, you could probably get, borderline invisibility out of it too. Actually, that is the master superpower right there. Yeah, actually, come to think of it, it gives you a form of invincibility as well.
There you go. There's your next stretch goal card. No pun intended.
Yeah, hashtag stretch goals. That's what I say whenever I get a ridiculous request.
There you go. Legends of Tabletop superpower question. There's retarded.
See that? We're helping out all over the place.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we want to thank you for coming on. It was a pleasure to talk to you. The game looks great. The art is fantastic. It looks like a
Mhm.
fun mechanic to play around in. That's the kind of thing. I play games with my brother, and it's just like, all right, we're just gonna beat the crap out of each other, whatever it is that we're playing. Sun Tzu, Othello, chess, Battletech. It doesn't matter. Like I'm gonna just wipe the floor with your head, and hopefully the cards come out right, or the dice roll high enough, or whatever it is.
Even in co-op games.
Even in co-op games. I
Thank you
don't
for
play.
having me on.
No,
Oh,
absolutely.
you're
I
welcome.
really, really appreciate it. It's a nice thing to do, and I haven't done a video interview before, so this has been a new experience as well.
Cool. And we've got you prepped and ready for your next one, so you won't have any nerves the next time you go in. So that'll be cool.
Nerves? Who's nervous? Yeah.
All right. Well, I'll wrap up the show. I'll give out all of our details here. You can find this interview and all the others at legendsoftabletop.com. If you have any questions, comments, or feedback, you can reach out to us at legendsoftabletop@gmail.com. We're on the Instagram. We post pictures from the meetup on there, games we're playing around the house, all kinds of goofy stuff, so you can check all that stuff out there. If you could rate us, review, leave some kind of comments on iTunes, that would be fantastic. That's super helpful for us. It gives us a little bit more visibility on there, so that's always a plus. Next week, we are going to have the guys from Deep Dark Designs on. They're going to be talking about their Kickstarter that's going on currently that I don't remember the name for off the top of my head, but come back Tuesday for that. The week after, I don't remember because I'm not prepared.
Don't even talk. Just say go and look at our events on the left-hand side of our website. We have a neat little calendar that I worked hard to get up there. So
Yeah. So
Alright.
Deep Dark Designs is Legendary Adventures Volume 2. It's a supplement for 5e, D&D. Week after, we'll have Adam with No Honor Among Thieves, also a current Kickstarter. And on the 20th, we're going to have, I don't remember his name, it's Tiny Frontiers. That's also going on Kickstarter currently. And to round out the month, we're going to have David Crennan on, the America's GM. GM for both Never Tell Me the Odds podcast and Crit Juice if they ever record another episode. So tune in for all that stuff, and thanks for checking us out, and we'll catch you next time.
Bye.
See you
Okay.
guys.